What words of wisdom have always stuck with you? It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Aristotle. Becoming your own devil's advocate is the most important thing for your own intellectual development. Just because we don't have anything important to talk about, doesn't mean the time we spend together isn't meaningful. I found this out when I came home from college to hang out with my brother. We wanted to make up for lost time and spend every minute together, but we ran out of things to talk about pretty quickly. It turns out, walking down the street and catching Pokemon is just as fulfilling as having a deep conversation. All that matters was that we were spending time with one another. I once worked with a guy for 3 years and never learned his name. Best friend I ever had. We still never talk sometimes. Ron Swanson. Never attribute to malice that which you can to stupidity or busyness. Never attribute to malice that which can be attributed to good intentions mixed with a bad model theory. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of it. I've always liked the adage, the difference between a master and a novice is that the master has failed more times than the novice has even tried. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Along the same lines, procrastination is like masturbation. Feels good, but you're just freaking yourself. As someone who gets overwhelmed easily and tends to procrastinate, I say these things to myself often to help stay motivated. When I get overwhelmed I tend to masturbate. Worrying is a lot like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but doesn't get you anywhere. Comparison is the thief of joy. I think about it usually once per day and remind myself to judge my life against my past and only look forward. Other people think about that at least twice per day. If you're not learning, you're fricked, said to me by a co-worker when I confided that I felt like I still had so much to learn. And he reminded me that everyone in the company was still learning something. I can attest to this. If you feel like you've already mastered or memorized everything about your job that you could do it even when your eyes are closed, slowly you'll get bored and eventually you'll dread clocking in at work. If you're going to eat crap, don't nibble it. As an introvert, I sometimes agree to do things with friends but then dread actually doing it when the event comes up. This saying helps me realize once I commit to something I should embrace the experience 100% without thinking of backing out. Back of the thought process, I have had some great experiences I would have otherwise bailed on. My dad always told me if you can't get out of it, get into it, means the same as what you said. Your wound is probably not your fault, but healing is your responsibility. Further to this, if you don't heal your wounds, you're going to bleed on people who didn't cut you. If you are one to feel self-conscious or have mild social anxiety, it can be helpful to remember that no one is really paying as much attention to you as you think. Anxiety, everyone's judging you. Me, chill, no one cares. Depression, ever. The grass is greener where you take care of it. Also the grass is greenest right above the septic tank or something along those lines. I wish it need not have happened in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf, and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us. Crocodiles are easy. They try to kill and eat you. People are harder. Sometimes they pretend to be your friend first. Steve Irwin. Always undersell and overdeliver. Also, from my dad, never throw the first punch, but feel free to throw the rest of them. You can be the ripest, yummiest, juiciest peach and there will still be people in the world who don't like peaches. Or you can be the grossest, most rotten peach ever, and there will always be a sicko who's into that. If you punish them for telling the truth, you teach them to lie. That's always a tough balance to strike. You want to encourage honesty in people, but honesty isn't a bulletproof protection for your actions. If you worry about not being a good person, remember that bad people don't care if they're a good person or not. This saved my life. My therapist recently said something similar to me when I mentioned my fear that I'm a bad person because of something I did. She reminded me that a bad person wouldn't have give a dang and wouldn't have tried to rectify the situation. It has been helping me remember I'm not one bad decision that I've made. Don't believe everything you think. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Rush. This friend of mine, I've asked my boyfriend 10 times if he's going to lend me the money to help pay for my rent while I'm out of work and he's never answered me. Oh yes, he has answered you. It's a lot better to say oh well instead of what if when it comes to any opportunity in life. I always think of this as regret feels worse than fear. Passed on from my mother, from her shrink. My mother was having trouble finishing her dissertation for her PhD, so much so that went to see a psychotherapist. After working in therapy for a while and resolving many other issues in her life, she found she still wasn't making progress on her diss and asked her therapist about it. He just said, "You don't need me for that. I don't have a diploma in my desk. You finish your dissertation the same way we all did. You put glue on your butt. You sit in front of your typewriter. This was in the 80s. And you just write it." She did. Most of getting things done is not about having ideal conditions, inspiration, or even motivation. So stop waiting for all that. Just put glue on your butt and do it. I'm constantly amazed at what I'm able to get done when I'm forced to get it done. Equally amazing is how long I'll not get something done when there's no deadline or real life pressure to get it done. Be the person you needed when you were a kid, and be a good person, but don't waste time proving it. My therapist told me we hate in others what we see in ourselves, and it's really pushed me to fix a lot of issues I have with my anger, jealousy, and just made me a better person altogether. Still living and learning though. A lot of car crashes are caused BC someone tried to save 4 seconds. Better to arrive late in this life than early in the next. Some movie or show I watched recently, I think I can't remember, possibly a Mexican proverb IDK. When you look at someone through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. You are not responsible for the dysfunction of others. A job worth doing is a job worth doing right, and that goes with, if you're going to do something, do it right the first time, so you don't have to go back and do it again. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius. I do not fear death. I had been dead for billions and billions of years before I was born, and had not suffered the slightest inconvenience from it. Mark Twain. If you have a problem that can be fixed, there is no use in worrying. If you have a problem that cannot be fixed, there is no use in worrying. Buddhist proverb. The world is a comedy to those that think, a tragedy to those that feel. Horace Walpole. We suffer more from imagination than from reality. Seneca. It's silly to try to escape other people's faults. They are inescapable. Just try to escape your own. Marcus Aurelius. 1. Does it need to be said? 2. Does it need to be said by me? 3. Does it need to be said by me right now? Make choices you can live with. Everyone you meet carries a heavy burden. Gain responsibility, but never grow up. Grown-ups don't have fun. My dad's last piece of advice to me. At the root of all anger is a violated expectation. Don't try to change people, try to understand them. Don't stress out too much about the things you can't control. Do no harm, but take no crap. And, not my circus, not my monkeys. I like them both, but the bottom one has made such an impact. I always tried to get involved and help people, but in reality I was trying to control how they did something etc so that it was done how I would do it. Plus, it also gets me to step away from drama. Not my problem, folks. My father's lesson to me about personal finance when I was in my early teens. If your outgo is more than your income, then your upkeep will be your downfall. My therapist regarding my confusion about my ex's behavior. Stop trying to make sense of something that will never make sense. From a guy in a class that never said a word. When asked why he never talked, I find that I learn very little when I'm the one talking. When someone tells you what kind of person they are, believe them. Yeesh. All the problems I could have avoided if I actually listened to this. Pro tip. Never date anyone who says I'm just a butthole bee all the time. My ex made being a butthole part of his personality. I used to think it was funny, but, as it turned out, he's actually a butthole. Wear sunscreen. I work outside and I'm usually the only guy on my crew to put on sunscreen. If you raise your children you can spoil your grandkids. but if you spoil your children you'll have to raise your grandkids. If they gossip with you, they'll gossip about you. Let them gossip. Life is too short to waste on worrying about stupid crap. My speech coach in high school was a real Gordon Ramsay style hardus. I never knew what would set him off, but after chewing my butt particularly hard one week during an atrocious practice, he said, "I'm not hard on you because I hate you. I'm hard on you because I know your potential. If I thought you couldn't do any better, I'd tell you to go home." Our team won state several years in a row along with occasional national championships due to his uncompromising style. I had someone very similar for a debate coach, the type that really drives you to perform, but has the personality of a lobster more often than not. Rest in peace, Mr. Paul Dorff. The truest test of character is not what someone does when others are watching, it's what they do when others aren't watching. So my truest character is Master Bashan. Your gas pedal is a weapon, brother. Keep your car doors locked, Mom. My brother said that when I began to drive. Couple weeks later 3 big guys tried to jump in my car. I heard that saying in my head and I hit the gas and got out of there. I had to drive to work through some bad areas. It was just a couple young guys looking to harass a young girl, each of them grabbing door handles to jump in. Thankfully all doors were locked by my mom who drove car before me. Gas pedal is also a weapon if you're dumb enough to drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs BTW. Never pet a burning dog. I have no idea what this means, but it stuck with me. Googling around tells me it either means don't do things that are stupid. Sometimes people who are in pain or distress will lash out when you try to help. Dogs like to be petted, but a burning dog has very different priorities. You are who you hang out with. Basically, be careful who you become friends with. Just because someone is nice to you and wants to be your friend, doesn't always mean they are worthy of friendship. There is such a thing as people that are a bad influence. Particularly if you are a very trusting and optimistic person. This is even more important. I have one friend in particular that has royally fricked up her life because she started hanging out with sketchy people and eventually developed their bad habits. My dad always said if you hang around with crap you're going to start to smell like crap. You have been visited by the chunk of good fortune. Like this post to enable good fortune for 26 minutes. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.